I believe in the stopping the violence so that children do not have to die.
I'm here because, well, frankly, I think what the Israelis are doing is appalling, and I want to show my support for the Palestinians.
I'm here because I'm appalled with what's happening in the Gaza Strip, and I've been hearing on the news. I haven't actually been on a march for a long time, but I just felt I wanted to come out and support people.
Do you think the West is doing enough to protect the Gaza?
Well, obviously Gordon Brown is siding with Bush on this one, so I think that's a huge problem. America's involvement means that Israel can carry on doing what they're doing. So yeah, I'm not sure what's going to happen.
Why are you here, sir?
To demonstrate against the Israeli attacks on Gaza.
Okay, and do you think the West is doing enough?
No, I don't. No, I think that I think Israel for too long has got away with illegal action.
I believe the kill ratio is 100-1 in Israel's favour.
Right, yeah.
It's crazy, isn't
yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Can I ask you why you're here?
Well, we're here as part of the Cambridge Stop the War Coalition. I'm the convener of the coalition there in Cambridge, and obviously we've been down on many demonstrations like this, and when Israel was attacking Lebanon 2 years ago, we were here, and we're here just to show our outrage at what's happening in Gaza.
Do you think the West is doing enough? Gordon Brown is doing enough?
No, absolutely not. I think one of the big reasons why so many people are out here today and up and down the country is because our government has said basically nothing. They've been very slow in coming forward, very keen to be seen as a friend of Israel, but even to the point of condoning absolute acts of barbarity as far as we can see. No, I don't think they're doing enough at all.
What do you say to Israel saying that they're defending themselves?
I think this is often paraded as an argument that they have to defend their own security. I think the numbers speak for themselves.
I believe 100-1 kill ratio.
Yes, absolutely. And of course, we can't just forget the history of what's happened. It's an occupied territory. Even under the UN, people have got a right to defend themselves against occupation. You can't compare homemade rocket missiles with the fourth biggest military power in the world. It's simply not fair, and it's just got to stop. The bombing has to stop.
I think the world is seeing that, aren't they?
Yes, I think they're saying it, and we've got to keep saying it until our leaders listen.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
All right, why are you here?
Because we want freedom for Palestine.
Okay. And do you think the West is doing enough to help the Gazans?
I think they should do more to help, and that the people from Israel are just killing the Palestinians for no reason.
Why are you here?
Why are you here? I'm here to protest against basically what's happening in Palestine.
Okay.
Yep.
Do you think Gordon Brown and Bush is doing enough to help the Gazans?
It's all one-sided, isn't it?
What do you say to Israel saying they're defending themselves?
Let me see. I've put it on here.
Yeah, but the one thing that nobody's pointing out is this is an oil-based war. Because that's why the other Arab nations aren't saying nothing. Because they want the oil price to go up because it's dropped a third at the moment. And if you've got the war, that's going to bring the price of crude back up. So it's an oil-based war.
Oil for blood.
Oil for blood.
Hello, why are you here?
I'm here to protest against Israeli bombing of the Gaza Strip.
Okay, and do you think the West is doing enough to help the Gazans?
No, absolutely not. I think if the West wanted to stop this, then they could. The Americans have refused to call for an immediate ceasefire. Gordon Brown has been very equivocal in his condemnation. He hasn't really condemned it at all. Today, Nick Clegg, the Liberal Democrat MP, has called for breaking of trade agreements, called for the EU to break off all trade agreements with Israel until there's an immediate ceasefire. I think that's the sort of pressure that we need to put on Israel. Break off trading agreements, sanctions, kick out the Israeli ambassador until this crime against humanity is stopped. I think it's disgusting that Britain continues to with Israel.
What would you say to Israel saying that they're just defending themselves?
I think that's pathetic. Israel has got massive missiles supplied by the US and Britain. It's got tanks. It's an absolute outrage. They've killed hundreds of innocent Gazans already, not to mention the sanctions that were imposed and the massive suffering that's caused.
So in the recent crisis, how many Israelis were killed and how many Palestinians? I believe the kill ratio is 100-1, is that right?
I can't remember. Robert Fisk quoted it in his article the other day. It's a massive ratio. It's totally unfair. It's not a fair fight in any way whatsoever.
Absolutely. Thank you very much indeed.
I'm here because I'm just appalled at the actions of the Israeli government. in its blockade of Gaza to begin with, and also the level of violence that we've seen over the past couple of weeks.
But the Israelis are just defending themselves, aren't they?
It's really part of a much bigger question than this particular supposed acts of defence, isn't it? We're talking about what is in effect a colonial invasion and expansion through Palestinian territory over several decades now, and in that context one wants to spread a message of peace, but one also understands acts of resistance, both non-violent and in terms of the missiles that are going across both sides of the notional border at the moment. One wants to see a complete ceasefire and halting to that process, but it must mean the opening up of Gaza.
Absolutely, and I understand the kill ratio is 100-1 in Israel's favour at the moment.
Yes, that's right, and over the long haul that has also been the case, hasn't it, with the invasion and dismantling of the Palestinian villages after 1948 and the further progress that the Israeli military made in 1967. And the acts of violence have been disproportionate. The means at the Israelis' disposal, with the support of the Americans, is immense.
And is Gordon Brown and Bush doing enough to bring more peace to the region?
Well, I don't hear messages of solidarity and sympathy with the Palestinians and their cause. I simply don't. They seem to be giving more or less a blank cheque for the Israelis to go ahead with actions like this, and I'd like to protest about that too, yes.
Thank you very much indeed.
You're welcome, thank you.
Madam, why are you here, please?
I'm here because I feel very, very strongly about the plight of the Palestinians at the moment. I don't think enough people are standing up for them, and really the British government should be doing more than they are.
That was going to be my next question. Were they doing enough? And obviously,
certainly not. It's outrageous that Gordon Brown doesn't agree and vote for this all to stop and for a ceasefire.
What do you say to Israel saying that they're just defending themselves?
You can defend, but they're on the offensive now, aren't they? They're attacking. They're at the border, about to attack. And there's homicide. And there's going to be even more, and it's just absolutely obscene that we're allowing it to carry on.
Especially when it's 100-1 kill ratio.
Exactly.
Thank you very much indeed. Why are you here, young man?
Well, I'm here because of the war against Palestine and Israel, and it's not fair on Palestine because there's bombardment and then people getting killed every day. In the first 3 days, about 400 people were dead, and it's just too cruel. There a lot of children and women got killed.
What would you like Gordon Brown and Mr. Bush to do about all this?
Well, I'd like them to stop blaming Gaza and stuff. So I just want them to do something about it.
Yeah, can I ask you?
Because we think what Israel are doing in Palestine is wrong, and we want to show we're against it.
What do you say to Israel saying they're defending themselves?
That's a blatant lie.
And do you think Gordon Brown and Bush are doing enough to bring peace into the region?
No. But that's not really their thing, is it? Peace.
Absolutely. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.